About a week or two ago, Kabza the Small established his new record company called TechHub. Let's take a deep dive.
Funu kudle tafuleni ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi unimali ephaketheni ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi minezama sifikile ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi kudle tafuleni ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi unimali ephaketheni ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi minezama sifikile ntwana ngize ngomsebenzi
TechHub, that's the new record establishment by Kabza the Small. We of course know that he has his first record label called Piano Hub. It was focusing on piano. It's all in the name. And TechHub will then focus on tech music, Afro tech. That's not to say that piano does not have tech elements to it. There's a piano subgenre called piano tech, but I do understand creating a different entity, because tech music can be so different from the piano tech music that we've become so well accustomed to through tracks such as John Wick and. So his establishment also is expected if he will be focusing on a new genre, because Piano Hub focuses on amapiano, and it would have been a confusion now if you have a new genre under the same stable. And that has been my gripe also with companies such as Rap Life, to say, if you name it Rap Life from the onset, if you are tempted to create a different genre of music and you put it under the Rap Life stable, from a nomenclature point of view, from a naming point of view, it might throw people off. It's like you've limited yourself in a way. It's the same situation with Music Pulse now, the podcast. Remember, it was called Piano Pulse, but at least now them realizing that the pond is actually bigger and they could focus on all genres of music, so they should then start to name it Music Pulse instead of Piano Pulse. Now I wonder if this is going to be a record company focused on adventure, or it'll just be for admin. You know, sometimes you can have a record company that is established for the sake of compliance. It's established for the sake of, we need to drop music under a particular company, but it'll be a company that has no intention to grow above and beyond what it could possibly become. And I do think that a lot of especially the quote-unquote independent record companies, we are too satisfied with being small. We are too satisfied with being small. As long as I've established this record company, people know it, and I've signed artists, and the artists are getting bookings and they are making a bit of money, then we are satisfied with it. But I do think there's a different class of record companies whose main aim is to monopolize an industry, whose main aim is to grow as much as possible, whose main aim is to take it to the top. And that's my criticism with a lot of, especially South African music companies. Not all of them, but certainly a lot of them. They are too comfortable with staying small. I mean, if you had an adventurous record company, you could grow to have your own publishing wing, your own publishing company under the record company itself. You know, have your own live events, a company under your record company. Have your own merchandising division producing your own merchandising, manufacturing your own merchandising, have your own recording division, because a record company basically means that it's a company that records music. But record companies in the traditional sense are no longer existing as they used to be back in the day. So that's why now we are calling them music companies. They are music companies, entertainment companies, because they are so broad and all encompassing. And I do think that Kabza the Small's brand is one of those that he could ensure that he goes the adventurous route. So instead of having a record company to house artists, he could be one of the biggest record companies we've seen in the country. I hope he's thinking like that. I hope he's thinking like that. I mean, think about the likes of Gallo Records. Think about Ambitious. Think about Kalawa. Those are more than record companies. Like, they're just institutions. They are institutions, and their founders and owners could afford to take 3 years hiatus, and those companies could still operate. Those companies could really still operate. Look at the top 3 music record labels in the world: Universal, Sony Music, and Warner Music Group. Look at how they operate. They're so huge. Somebody started it small, started it locally, grew it within their locality, grew it within their music market, grew it to other music markets, and now they are huge globally because they were not operating as administrative record labels signing 1 or 2 artists. They were not comfortable with that. Right now, they even buy other record labels. They're operating globally. It's a huge machinery, and I do think that's what we are missing with a lot of the record companies within our country. It's too much admin, taking bookings, going to perform. Like, what's the growth strategy? And I do think the likes of Maporisas and Kabza, they are well positioned because of their brand to attract the talent that they need within their stables. The professional personnel, they are so established that they could even poach professional personnel from the major record companies. They could certainly do that. And in and there's always been criticism about as an artist signing under another artist, and that's warranted. That's really warranted, because sometimes with a lot of artists, the artists that you sign seldom become bigger than yourself. Of course, there are exceptions. If you think about Mampincha, there was a point whereby Babes Odumo was huge, and we can have an argument. Of course, like, institutionally, Mampincha is huge, especially if we think about from his days of Big Nas. But Babes Odumo was signed to Mampincha. Babes Odumo was huge, bigger than Mampincha at some point. Think about Tira, who signed Big Nas. Big Nas was bigger than Tira. Think about Zakes Bantwini, who signed Elvovo Dirango. Elvovo Dirango was huge, was bigger than Zakes Bantwini. You think about Lil Wayne and Drake, is the same thing. And the criticism that I have maybe with, like, I think the challenge for Kabza would be to create an artist that is bigger than themselves. That will then allow Kabza to, if one day he decides to take a hiatus and retire, his lifestyle will not change, because there's an artist who's bigger than them who will be able to bring the same revenue and more than what he could bring. Because why? Because the artist is bigger than them, so they're making a lot of money more than them. I hope this TechHub will be one of those record labels, especially because tech music is huge internationally with gigs, on islands. Tech music is really huge, and of course there's another business model of the likes of Black Coffee, whereby he's signed to Solistic Music, which is his record label, but he's like the main guy within the record label. That's why I think Shimza at some point left the record label, because he felt like he was not getting too much attention. And that's the criticism some people lay to artists signing artists. But I hope that the model here is a kind of model that he will build an institution that will outlast him. It's not about him. I hope that he will build a kind of institution that will outlive even the owner and the founder itself. A generational institution. If you think about Ambitious, That's an institution that's there. It's no longer about the founder. Think about Kalawa. It's no longer about the founder. They've built something that's bigger than themselves. Galo Music. The Black Coffee bought a stake a few years back, but if you think about how it has formed its history, it became bigger. It created cultural icons. And my thing with Kabza and Maporisa is that they are too central within their businesses, within their record companies, with New Money Gang, which is Maporisa's label, and now Kabza with TechHub. Only if they can remove themselves from the label itself, can the label exist with outside of themselves? Can it do that? And for it to be commercially viable? There are political parties whom that their modus operandi is that they centralize around their leader. Now the problem is when the leader is not there, then what happens to the political party becomes a problem. And I would not like that to happen with Kabza's label and Maporisa's label and all the quote-unquote independent labels that we see sprouting out from people that we celebrate. I'd love for them to exist outside of themselves. And I say independent because the independent is also questionable because they still sign joint ventures with the majors. We need to be able to grow the labels so much that we are completely independent. So that's why the whole idea of independence also of independent record labels is also quite problematic. But in a nutshell, that's a great move. And remember, any analysis commentary is secondary to the effort that the primary actors put